Hi, my name is Zane. You might know me from making some stamina files, dubious quality, making graphics for Joyous Streaming, or you might not know me at all. I make stamina files. I put out a pack named Zaniel's Junts. I contribute to various packs, and I like to make graphics. And today I'm going to go over trying to make some graphics for in Photoshop because right now the only real good tutorial out there is Chief Skittles for GIMP. And honestly, I like using Photoshop more than GIMP. Workflow is just a lot better. I like it a lot more. So, what you're going to need is a web browser for getting graphics, backgrounds, also fonts. I usually use defont.com for where I get my fonts. You can go on Google Images. Google Images can be pretty good for finding stuff, or like SafeBrew. I'm probably going to be using this one right here. Um, but yeah, so I in a earlier draft of this video, I made this Joy of Streaming 2 art for Mango, but I felt like one, the video wasn't very good, and two, it kind of didn't get to go over some of the more difficult parts because anyone can just put some text, zoom in on something, but you want to make it special. So I'm going to try to make it a bit more special than that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take those out. And again, let's work with this one. I really like this picture. I think it looks really cool. Like Mango for her Joy Streaming 1 artwork asked me to do something that was kind of rave-like, and I think this kind of exemplifies that really well. So let's copy this. You can either save it or copy it if you have Photoshop, which, by the way, if you don't have Photoshop and you want to get Photoshop, I have Photoshop through my college. However, it's Photoshop. There are other less than great ways to get it. Not going to go over them. If you know where to look up things, you know where to get it. And Photoshop hasn't really changed much in the past like decade, so you should be good. So what we want to do first is scale this down. This is at an absurd resolution starting out. So we want to start off with making this a lot smaller and then get it to somewhere that you want it. So obviously, like, the main focal point of this is obviously Marissa with the really psychedelic looking, like having the tab of acid on her tongue and with the glasses. So try to center that. I'm not sure because it seems like that's centered, but don't think it's really that centered. Like, probably gonna need to scoot it over. Probably at the end of the day, it's not gonna be like entirely center. However, that should be good. All right. One of the main things that I wanted to go over, which I didn't on my first draft, was, as you can see on this one, because this is the background I did, it's kind of static text. Like, it's 2 lines, but it's not that hard to do 2 lines, do a stroke, do drop shadow, although stroke and drop shadow are some things that people probably wouldn't think about. So we got this. That's really nice. We want to use that, or maybe zoom it out a little bit more. Yeah. So, but we want something on this to be dynamic. We don't want it to be, for something like this, we don't want, just that. Like for this, that would have been fine because that's how, like if I move this, you can see that's what that was originally. But I want something a bit more dynamic for this. So let's go to Defont and look at what we can find. So if we go, and the good thing about Defont is they have all of these different themes that they have. So like for that one, I went to like Techno and Square. That could find it. Or like if you were looking for dingbats, holiday themed stuff, basic fonts. But for this one, I think let's go into the groovy one. I think we'll probably find something really good for this, such as this keep on trucking. That's really good. Another good thing about DeFont is that it'll let you preview the fonts with your text that you want to use. So, for example, there's this Powerpuff Girl one. There's the bell bottom laser, which that's another really good one. Heavy heap. So right now I'm trying to decide between keep on trucking and bell bottom laser, wherever that went, right there. You know, I'm going to go with this because that looks pretty interesting. So open that up, drag this over, and as you can see, it comes with a TTF, install that. So there's this giant face that's in the middle of this, right? So if we do this, it's going to be black text. So another thing that's different between this Photoshop and other ones is that it starts with lorem ipsum text. If you have an older Photoshop, it'll just be nothing. But on here, it gives you some text to start off with. So the joy of streaming 2. Let's make that a bit smaller, otherwise it won't fit. There we go. So that looks really bad right now. It like we can put it like right there. Like even if we like the stroke won't look good on it, but like even if we do that, it's not going to look good like on this. We want something, even though this text is already pretty dynamic, we want something more dynamic. So one thing that you can do on that is if we go to text and select this text layer again, there's this right here. This creates warp text. As you can see, there's like different ways that it can warp it. For example, if we do an arc, which plus 50 might be a bit much, actually 41, then move that down. As you can see, that already looks a lot better. It's a lot more dynamic for sure. Also, honestly, looking at it, I might... the 2 on either of them is kind of bad, but so we have that arc, and if we do 50 will look pretty alright, because honestly, if we have it over the top, then it's pretty good. However, let's go one step further. Let's duplicate this. So now we have 2 of these. Why do we want 2 of these right now? Because if we go to here, again, copies everything about it. Like if I wanted to turn on the stroke, do whatever. But what I want to do is streaming 2. So what we'll do is have this one be the joy of. Then what we can do, now that that's bigger, we can do free transform. Now on my Photoshop, it'll constrain the ratio, so it'll keep being the same ratio. On older Photoshops, it'll be shift plus click to keep the ratio, but on this one it does this. However, I think we want to do this because if we do, like, might want to, you know, stretch that out a bit. Who knows? Although I don't think I want that. I think I do, in fact, just want to constrain the proportions. Although I might want to do that. Okay, so although I'm also probably going to lessen the amount of curve now. But that's the thing about Photoshop. If you don't save it, like if you keep it in a Photoshop file, you can change this whenever you want. You can do that. Like it's all editable. So now that we do it at 40, now that still has the bit of a curve, but it looks nowhere as squished. Again, the thing about arc is you can also do minus. So that one was plus 40. Let's do minus 40. So now we have these 2. Actually, because that covers... So if we move that slightly up, there we go. Okay. And also I'm probably going to do something about that. And that'll be good for now. So now we have the joy of streaming 2 around there. But again, it could look better. Like it kind of needs something to pop. Like it's not popping right now. It just looks like you have this background, you have some text over it. Could be a bit better. Again, might just make that slightly bigger. Because, yeah. Although now they probably aren't the same size at all, but whatever. And again, for doing transform, you can either go up here, edit, free transform, or I do Control T, because Control T is a lot more easy for me. To do that, though, we might also want to make the background slightly more like that, just so that I can position this a little bit more down. That one probably going to keep getting cut off at the top. So again, let's go into here. Maybe instead of 40, let's do plus 30. Okay. That should keep it from getting cut off, but still make it look pretty good. Go to streaming 2 and change that to minus 30. So now we want to actually get a border on these, because if there's one thing that will instantly make your text look better, it'll be giving it some sort of border. So again, we can do green. And thing about Photoshop's stroke is that it can go all the way up there, it can go all the way down to 1. This, I think we're going to want something like 2 or 3, maybe 2. 3. You can also change the opacity of it. You can change where it is. You can be like inside it to make it look like garbage. You can be in the center, which I don't know what that does. Most of the time you're going to want it outside. You can also change the blend mode. I'm not really sure what blend mode does, but yeah. And you can also change it from being just a static color. So like if I just wanted to be white, which probably won't look that great, just have it be black, green, whatever. I think that a gradient will look interesting though. And if we look, and again, this is just on this Photoshop. Your Photoshop might not have these presets here, but yeah. But like, let's just do like, let's do some oranges. Orange will look all right. Then you can change the scale of it, change what angle it's at, but I don't think that changing the angle will look that great. You can also just add another stroke layer around it. So what that does is now you have 2. Now this one can be outside of that. So if you want, actually, what you can do is change this basics, blues, pinks, iridescence, neutrals. There should be, I thought that there's a rainbow one somewhere. Pastels? No. Why isn't there a rainbow one? That makes no sense to me. I bet I could make one. Because yeah, there should be like one in basics, but there doesn't appear to be one, so let's just make one. So obviously, or purple 21, reds. Let's do reds. So what we want is it to be, let's make this one completely red, and you can add more stop points. So let's go here for this one. Let's make this one be blue. Or do this. Because let's try to do something which seamlessly goes through the whole spectrum. So that'll look really nice. Do that, and then back down here are oranges. So there we go. So let's take that one off. As you can see, that is pretty rainbow. Now what we can do on this one is if we change this actually back to, like, let's say white. There we go. You have the black text, the white around it, but then it has the rainbow around that. Which honestly, I'm going to say probably a winner. So maybe change that from a 6 to a 5, make it take up a little bit less space. And then what we can actually do is we can copy these effects. So copy layer style, go to this layer, and that apparently just screwed up. So copy layer style, come over here, effects, paste layer style, and there we go. That copies it to the more upper layer. And for some reason, my keyboard just disconnected. So there we go. We now have this really psychedelic looking Joy of Streaming banner. And again, we didn't really need to use things like having like, because like if I use an example from like let me open something, like scooch this over so I can get an example, like go to here. Like obviously there can be like more complex stuff, like 9 volt Joy of Streaming stuff. He has like that, which has like some transparency and stuff. But on this one, you know, that's pretty much okay. Although that probably, I'm never gonna get this thing to where I want it to be, am I? Unless I like completely downsize it. Or make it way bigger. That's another thing you can do, just make it way bigger. But actually, might want to do that because now we got that. Though, has some pixelation on it now. So might want to recopy that in. Because obviously this is like really clean. Because it turns out scaling stuff back and forth forever will not work out. Yeah, that's fine. As you can see, that looks a lot cleaner now. It's a fresh copy. So, but yeah, it's like if you want something like this is Nougat's banner from Joy of Streaming, like this effect isn't very hard. Like that would basically be like fill that, do that, and then like copy that over. That'll be black, but if you change the opacity, like 50%, there you go. And like that's kind of what he did. Except I think there might be like a little bit of blur, and also you can change this to be like, you know, there's those, but you can also do a gradient. So if you want to do like, here's the opacity one again. So it's like, if you want it to go from like foreground to transparent, so like do that. And then admittedly you can like scale this up. It's gonna unconstrain that, so I can do that. But scale that up to be the entire thing. Yeah, sure. Why are you not letting me? Have you just frozen on me? Yeah. But yeah, so you can do that, and then that'll give you that effect. Don't really want that though. Not letting me do anything. Sometimes Photoshop just doesn't want to be responsive. Although, if that was slightly less messy, I might do it. Actually, no, let's do that. Instead of doing that, let's have there be no stroke on that. And then that'll create that. And then again, that's from, I don't know why it's going from there to there, but you can edit this. And if we do that, as you can see, now we have this. Don't make another one. So don't make another one. Now we have this really neat looking effect on it. Which I think looks pretty good. Kind of just goes from, dark to not so dark. Might want, is that 90 degrees? Yeah. Might want to change the opacity on it or change the scale. Because again, if we do that, that's like that. Doing scale changes that. Changing the scale does different things. I might just want to. Don't do that. I know I'm rambling a bit. I'm sorry. That's good. So yeah, so now it'll slowly fade in like that. So we got that. So I would say that's a pretty all right banner. And could go with or without that. I kind of like how it has the shading at the bottom. So now that we got the banner done, let's convert this to a actual background. So obviously we have this joy streaming to right here. However, one of the good things about Photoshop is that you can literally just copy these, paste, and there you go. You now have all of the effects on there. And then let's get that art back on here. Scale that way down. And I think this time, since it's a bit bigger, we can afford to take some space on this. So let's move that down. So now we have these. And one of the good things about Photoshop is that because we copied everything over, it'll also copy over all of the text styling. So all we have to do is scale it up, and it'll scale everything up for you. So that's scaled up. Come to here, scale that up. Maybe probably not be massive. Do that. Don't do that. Although, as you can see, that's probably a better indicator of where it is. That'll be good, because that helps align with that. And there we go. So, joy of streaming too. Although, that text could look slightly better. So let's use drop shadow. Drop shadow will instantly make your text pop out, because instead of it being, flat, give it a drop shadow, now it's popping. So drop shadow you can make just completely and utterly below it, but you probably don't want to do that. You want to have it under your text. So you can have it like that far, you can just put it directly under, but you probably want some sort of slight distance under it. Then you can change spread. What spread does is it does that. You can also change the size. So basically spread changes the physical part of it. Spread change, and then that does that. So we don't want that much spread, but we do want to knock the size up a little bit. Or no, let's get the spread. Yeah. Okay. So now we have that. And again, since we made things bigger, we can make this stuff bigger. Like, that's 5 now. Let's make that 8, or maybe even 10. Which means we now have to make the drop shadow bigger. Otherwise, it'll be hidden. That looks pretty good. And again, go to Effects, copy layer style, paste layer style, and now it has the style. So then we probably want to come back here and honestly take out the rectangle, because what I was probably thinking of to give it that little bit of extra pop on here is do the drop shadow. That way that's a bit of a huge drop shadow on there for how small it is, so tune it down a little bit. That should be good. Maybe knock that up a little bit. Then knock the bottom one down a little bit. Okay. Then copy effects, paste effects. God, I wish I had slightly more room. Might just make that 20%. But I'm going to call it here. I'm a bit of a perfectionist. I'll never be happy, but I think over these past roughly half hour, probably been able to show you how to go from basically nothing to having a banner that should be good enough for whatever pack you are doing. Again, gotta center this. God, my work will never be done. But yeah, so hopefully this helped you a slight amount. It's not as hard as people think. It's just scary if you don't really know how to get started with it. So my name is Zane, and hopefully this is some help to someone somewhere.